Okay, Sarah, going into D1 and studying for the exam, what is the right mindset for students to have? Zen. Breathe.
It's true. The amount of information in D1 is exhaustive and you have to know it all. So start studying. There is a cadence in the diploma, I find. You read, you have to do the reading before class and not the night before class. Reviewing the night before class is helpful. Reviewing the day of, if you have time on the train or bus or whatever on the way to class, is good to review. I recommend starting to read a week before the class. Take your notes. If you take notes, write flashcards if you write flashcards, or use Brainscape, either the curated classes, or start writing your own flashcards and start studying the first day. Mm-hmm. And find your own cadence and stick to it. Do not deviate. If you miss a day or two, that's fine. I understand. Birthdays, holidays, long weekends, whatever. But stick with it and stay steady, stay on the course.
Yeah, this is not high school where you study a couple of days before the exam. This is like you learn through the course. Cool. Well, in your opinion, what is the hardest part about the first diploma module on wine production?
The volumes of information that you will be given, which is a lot different and a lot more exhaustive than D3. You have to know every single aspect of viticulture and enology. And you're not even a winemaker or a viticulturist, but you have to know all the phases, what they're all made of, what the vine does, how the wine is made, matured, how it's pressed, how it's filtered, how it's fined. It's everything. And all of these whats that you learn now are your foundation and will be the whys later on in D3, D4, and D5.
Right. So what are some of the things you did to study efficiently and stay on track?
For the D1 exam, some of the things that I did to stay on track was repetitive studying. And this was I took D1 several years ago, and it was before they changed the format. It was also prior to Brainscape. And I hand wrote my flashcards. I probably had about 400 or 450. It was a stack. Mm-hmm. And I hand wrote out all of my flashcards, and I carried them around with me in a rubber band wherever I went. And on the subway or on the bus, I would just pull them out and just go through them. And if there was one that I knew that I needed to remember, like the pH levels and their particular numbers, or like what are the fermentation temperatures for this, I would memorize it. And if I wasn't good at answering the question, I would put it like a quarter of the way through the deck, right, so it would come up more frequently. Kind of what Brainscape does with the algorithm, but it worked, and it was consistent studying. That's what worked for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and flashcards have been proven to like help people retain information more efficiently than any other kind of study technique.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, Thea, but I don't have a photographic memory. I know some people do. And maybe youth, they were able to read something and remember it, but not now.
Well, the rest of us mortals. Yeah, exactly. Flashcards are a great tool. But I've also read that studying alongside maps is a really great way to remember information for the diploma.
Maps are essential. And I can't even tell you how many people, and I'm a wine educator, and there are some folks I meet and they're like, what do you mean maps? I'm like, I mean maps. Get out the map and look to see. So do you know where Austria is? What are the bordering countries? Mm-hmm. What side are the mountains on? Where's it flatter? Where's the Pannonian Plain in reference to Eastern Austria? Why isn't viticulture grown? Why isn't it cultivated in the western part of Austria or Hungary? Where's that? What are the lakes in there? What about the rivers? What are the countries surrounding it?
Right.
And like, you have to look at a map. You have to. If there's one takeaway from this, start studying with maps.
Yeah. Because maps engage the right hemisphere of the brain. And, you can look at bare black and white text, which engages the left hemisphere. But why not use both sides of your brain to learn? You're going to learn so much better if you incorporate visual. If you can picture it in your mind while you're taking that exam, you're going to do so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So learning content is one thing, but now how can students prepare for the final exam, which is essay only?
So in addition to memorizing and really getting into your bones, all of that detailed information that you need in D1, it is practicing your essay writing. Whenever there is an opportunity to do homework and your instructor in D1 says, here's a mock exam question, do it. Do not pass up that opportunity. The first 3 mock exam questions that we were given to take home, I failed miserably. They were like, you would not pass. This is what you need to work on. And it's not about, I failed that mock take-home exam. It's not about failing. It's what you can learn from those instructors. They're telling you how to pass the exam. Take that opportunity. Submit the messiest thing. Even if you're not proud of it, does not matter. Submit it, get the feedback and go, okay, how can I utilize that information and apply it to what I know and my writing style? And one thing about writing style, the WSET does not want you to emote. They don't want you to write tasting notes that are pretty and frilly and glorified. They want you to spit back the information in a scientific way that makes sense. It's succinct, it's factual, it's dry, but it demonstrates that you understand viticulture and enology. They don't care if you're a creative writer and you've been published. They don't care. They want you to pass this exam too. So there are benchmarks that you need to hit in your essay questions. If they're talking about viticulture, be sure to talk about aspect and soils and climate. If they are talking about maturation, don't talk about the maximum yields. Don't talk about fog. Talk about maturation. Hit those points. And if you need to create acronyms for yourself, which I did, and it was incredibly helpful, and they didn't make any sense, but I just memorized what the things were that I needed to hit. So on my exam, I actually wrote down in the margins my acronym, and I wrote out what it was. And that way I could go back when I was writing my outline for the exam. And this is in the exam situation, in the examination environment. Write down my acronym in the margin, go to my scratch paper, and I was like, okay, what things do I need to hit? Great. And then I would go, okay, did I do it?
Yeah, right.
And then it's, what order do I want to talk about it in? And then I just dumped it all. I barfed it all on the paper, but I was able to do it quickly because I knew what I was going to write about.
Yeah.
And what were we talking about? How did I prepare for this exam?
Yeah, for essay only, kind of. How do you prepare for an exam? Yeah.
So do all of those take-home exams. Another thing to do is to read the examiner's reports, as cagey as they can be sometimes, and as, I don't want to say non-committal, but like, they provide some good information. They provide guardrails, I feel. They don't give it away. They do not open the kimono, as it were. They give you the lane to stay in. And they say, please don't do this, and please don't do this. Stay right in here.
Right.
And that is a good reminder when you're studying for this exam or any of the diploma exams. This is what I need to focus on. I should remember not to do this, that, or whatever, but I should remember to do X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And it's a good reminder. I would always read the examiner's reports a day or two before the exam so that I could remember on just as a cherry on top, this is what I need to be thinking about when I'm writing out my acronym or acronyms and my outline.
Yeah. And even as you go through a prep and you do as many practice questions as you can and look at as many examiners reports as you can to keep a running bullet point list of that kind of the most salient feedback you've heard from your own questions, but other people too. And to read through that again right before you take the exam, so you make sure you stay on track.
One of the things that I found super helpful was finding one study buddy. I had one study buddy for D3, which is just the massive tasting portion, you know?
Yeah.
But find a study buddy for D1 and bounce it off of each other. Okay, what do you do for this? Like, make up your own exam questions in addition to the ones that you get from class.
Yeah.
And say, okay, we should talk about maturation for rosés, let's say. Winemaking and maturation for rosés. Great. Write your own, even if it's just a bullet point, share it with each other, do a Google Drive or Google Sheet or whatever. And that way you can see each other's work and go over it and leave your ego out of it, because the exam is not about your ego. The exam is about what you can regurgitate in a limited amount of time in a very succinct fashion.
Great way to sum it up. Well, are there any high yield topics students can expect to see on the exam? You know, obviously what you suggest isn't a guarantee of what students can expect to see, but you know, what guidance do you have?
I would say, I'm not an examiner, so I can't tell you what's going to be in the exam, but you can bet your bottom dollar that they're going to ask you something about maturation. They're going to ask you something about maybe bottling. They're going to maturation methods. They're going to ask you something about fermentation or maybe fermentation through mallow. They might ask you something about, such a huge subject, but viticulture. And they might ask something like, how does a new viticulturist figure out where to plant? What are some of the factors, environmental and vineyard factors, that they need to look for? So you need to know about what latitude they're on if they give that to you. Is there a body of water close by? Are there mountains close by? Does the place have high rainfall, or does it have more of a Mediterranean climate and there's typically a drought in the summertime? That climate will indicate what kind of grapes they can grow. What are those grapes? The quality of those grapes. What style of wine do those grapes make? And D1, I can't stress enough, is the absolute foundation of your diploma. And you will go back to it and use it in D3, D4, and D5. Do not mess with it. It is absolutely your grounding unit, and you will use it for the rest of your diploma.
Yeah.
Don't fuck it up.
So don't cherry pick either. So you have to learn it all.
You have to, and you get tested on it, and you get pushed on it in D3. Like I forget what it was, but there was some method, and I was like, what is that again? And I had to go look it up, and I was like, well, I don't really love the way that the diploma reading material explained it to me. And I had to Google it, and I looked on some other professional websites to really get a deeper understanding. It might have even been filtration or something. And I was like, I forget the sheets or the diatomaceous earth or something or other. I don't know. And so I had to relearn it.
Yeah.
And wine, like a language, if you don't use it, you lose it. And so you will have to go back, and don't be frustrated with yourself. I go back all the time because I'm like, oh, I forget what the other Grand Crus in Moray Saint Denis are besides whatever. Like, I can't even think of one right now. But you are always going back, and do not beat yourself up. Meet yourself where you are and go relearn it. No shame in that game. And there is no ego in this. It is all about facts and information that you have to just remember. And sometimes you'll remember really stupid information.
Yeah.
And not the information you need to know for the exam because it was fun. So learn how to make it fun. And maps help make it fun. Studying with a buddy helps make it fun.
Yeah.
Drinking the wines helps make it fun. Volunteering or working a harvest somewhere, even if it's just for a week or for a month, helps make it fun. I got to tell you, when I worked harvest, I've worked 2 harvests. It really gets into your brain. Oh, this is fermentation. Oh, those are gross lees. Oh, these are fine lees. And this is what Brix means. And this is what a wine tastes like as it's fermenting. And this is where the tannins start to appear. And Sangiovese smells the best when it's fermenting. It smells like roses and cranberries, and it's absolutely beautiful. Yeah. And then you realize, oh, a lot of people actually inoculate for Malo. This is the strain that they use. This is how you inoculate it. And this is how you test for pH. And I wasn't there for bottling because I really only worked harvest, so I didn't get to see that. But I've seen bottling lines before, and you can watch them on YouTube. And bottling's not as big of a deal, I think, as really working in the winery. Mm-hmm. That'll really help solidify winemaking for you.
And some of the finest wines in the world, in fact, I dare say all of the finest wines in the world were made by people who probably didn't even have an education beyond school. They learned in the cellars, in the fields. They learned from their parents how to make wine. So that just drives home the point that the art of doing it is where such learning takes place. So
absolutely.
Try to color your education with the doing of it.
Yeah. Cool. And the consumption of it too.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole point, isn't it?
Oh.
Well, do you have any final advice for our viewers who themselves are very likely preparing to take the diploma's first exam?
Learn how to love that information in D1, because it's going to follow you around like an old suitcase for the rest of your diploma.
Right. And don't ignore any weaknesses either, I think. As you were saying, it's tempting to maybe to glance over something that you don't quite understand, and, but you really just dig in until you understand it.
Yeah.
Awesome. And there you have it, the best advice for taking on the WSET Diploma module on wine production, straight from the expert's mouth. I hope Sarah's tips and insights have you feeling more confident as your exam date draws nearer. Also be sure to check out Brainscape's mobile and web flashcards for this module, a powerful supplementary study tool to use alongside your official WSET learning materials. This expert-curated collection distills down the latest curriculum into 11 decks of 930 bite-sized facts, which you can then use to draw yourself on using Brainscape's sophisticated space repetition algorithm. In fact, Brainscape is proven to help you learn twice as efficiently as traditional study methods, which is a major boost when you consider the mountain of content you need to understand and memorize. So take Sarah's advice, study hard, get Brainscape in your corner, and you'll have what it takes to rise to the challenge of the WSET Diploma.